All right, Sicario, Day of the Soldado, Stefano
Soldado.
Solima. I mean, man, did you like Sicario 2015?
Fuck yeah. You kidding
Yeah,
me?
fucking awesome.
Denny Villeneuve, Roger Deakins, 3
Yeah,
Oscar noms, Emily fucking Blunt. Hell yeah. That movie's fucking awesome.
Daniel Kaluuya, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
No one knew who he was yet. He was still Black Mirror guy then.
and he was still great. Like, it was
hmm
fantastic.
And John Bernthal. Love him as well.
Yep. I mean, it's funny because when I think about Sicario now, I mean, there's so many scenes from it. I think about it. Actually was on last night, so after I saw it, I came home and I was watching the first one. And I was like, man, this movie. There's just scene after scene that really sucks you in. For the Ringers rewatchables, I hope 10, 15 years they're doing the Sicario rewatchable.
Yeah. What
But
really stood out to you in terms of those scenes from the first one?
well, obviously Deacon's cinematography is just unbelievable. Like you think about like the colors of the sky, just the way it's shot and framed. I mean, the story is thrilling, and it's like it goes from being very tense to actually like scary at points. Like when Emily Blunt is hooking up with that guy, and she like starts to figure out like he's connected to the drug cartels.
The Bernthal scene.
Yeah, that crazy. Whole scene is unbelievable.
And then, the other scene, I think the best scene in the movie is that border checkpoint shootout.
Yep.
Which is kind of mimicked in the sequel. But yeah, I mean I think that's really like where like Denny like really can shoot action. Like it really stands out the way he his camera works. But yeah, overall the first one, it's a movie that actually did pretty well. It made 84.8 million worldwide. $30 million production budget, and that's off a $12 million opening weekend. It was a really leggy release, and slow rollout. So pretty successful overall. And then, but I mean, until we got news of Sicario 2 with the original title, did you ever expect a sequel for this?
No, but well, I mean, I guess it kind of was left open for a sequel in a way, but I didn't really think that this would be a movie that ever get a sequel for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, the cast was big, so to get everybody come back was going to be hard. Emily Blunt, I think, was attached to this, but then dropped out for several reasons. At least those are reports I heard, and that was almost 2 years ago that she supposedly backed out. So it was even before it got into production. The other reason I didn't think is because the topic and just it's a hard one to touch, and especially I think this is kind of something I wanted to talk about here is the political atmosphere around these topics is so touchy right now, and it kind of influenced the way I watched the movie and felt about some of the scenes in the movie, I think, and I'm wondering how it affected you, but we can save that until after we get into kind of talking more about the movie. I'm guessing you didn't expect a sequel, but are you happy that they made the sequel?
Honestly, I am. Like your point, I didn't think it. I mean, the first one's really about drugs. This new one's more about the border, immigration, humanitarian crisis like that. Whereas drugs is kind of a more, I guess, tried and true theme for movies, I guess. But still, the way it was done, it's really like a hyper realistic film. Even if it gets a little actiony at the end, it's still, it's still self-serious. So the fact that we got a sequel, I mean, first of all, Denis Villeneuve movie getting a sequel would be the first one for that to happen. And then, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it all, and I was actually very skeptical because I was like, everyone's like, oh, it's a cash grab. They're just doing this for money. I'm like, well, yeah. They're keeping the IP. They could very well make this movie with different characters, and it could not be a sequel at all. It barely connects. It's just that Josh Brolin and Benicio, you already know who they are. That's really the only connection. But it's not really a cash grab because the first one didn't make $100 million. It's not going to be a blockbuster, and it wasn't. Sicario 2 made $19 million for third place, which is quite good given it's still $35 million budget. So it's not like the cash grab, but it was weird that they decided to make a sequel. But then you realize Taylor Sheridan's back, and he wrote the first one. He wrote Hell or High Water, and then he wrote and directed Wind River. And I think he's 4 for 4 in terms of his like contemporary like Western films. And I get what you're saying, and we'll get into that about like the contemporary environment that you watch Sicario 2 in. I still think the movie really works.
Yeah, I thought the movie was good. I didn't think it was as good as Sicario, which is it's hard with a sequel, and I think not having Blunt to really carry the emotional weight to the film hurt. I think they put a lot of the emotional lifting on the shoulders of Isabella, the little girl in this, and it's a tough ask of a 14-year-old, 15-year-old,
Yeah,
maybe even 16.
I mean, Blunt was the audience avatar.
Exactly.
The good in the film. There's not a lot of good in Sicario 2. It's very grim watch, self-serious, and Isabella, well, I think they do some good stuff with her point of view. Overall, it's it's a dark film, and it's I think that's if anything's missing from the second one, it's probably that, because it's not like the first one had like a much of a message. It's just kind of like can you work with the wolves without becoming one? And then the second one is just, here are the wolves. They're gonna do some more shit,
Yeah, and I think if anything, it tried to humanize Alejandro. The Benicio del Toro's character, and I thought he was great. I mean, he plays that role so perfectly. It kind of actually reminds me, when I think about a comparative movie or a contemporary movie that's comparative, John Wick. Yeah. I think of actually, just because it's a superhero type character who just gonna come in and fuck shit up, but has this very like cool demeanor all the time, and
motivated to become a bad guy by personal tragedy.
One lost his family, one lost his dog. I mean, it's very comparative. But yeah, it's so in thinking about the movie, and it starts off. I'm gonna get into some spoilers, so for some reason you're still listening, you haven't seen it back out. I mean, that first 10 minutes is a tough way to start the movie. Yeah. You see a person blow themselves up at the border when they get chased down by Border Patrol. And then you see these 4 guys walk into a pharmacy, I believe it is.
Supermarket. Kansas City or something. Yeah.
And they blow themselves up. And it's highlighted by this mother trying to get her daughter out the door. And a guy literally blows himself up right next to them.
Doesn't pan away.
No, it's brutal to watch, and shocking. I mean, and I think it sets the tone for the movie, that this movie is going to be shocking. I mean, another scene that shocked me was when they shot Benicio del Toro Alejandro in the face. I was like, he's going to find somebody else. I thought Josh Brolin was going to come over the corner in a helicopter or something. Nope, it's just shot in the mouth. Like, this movie didn't pull any punches, which I appreciate, but at the same time, kind of left me feeling like Isabella by the end, which probably was the intent, was that this shit is serious. This is painful. This is hard to live, to deal with, to see. And something needs to happen. And these things are happening. It's just, man. There was a lot I liked about it, though. I feel like I'm being too down on it. What was your favorite parts? Like, let's highlight some of the good about this movie.
I think one of the first standout scenes for me was when they first go into Mexico on that caravan, the convoy, and then the police like turn on them, they get ambushed on the dirt road. And most of that scene is shot through Isabella's POV, so you're not seeing all of the action directly. And that's give Stefano Sollima a lot of credit for that scene, because that's very much mimicking the way Denny shot the border scene. While I still think the border scene is better, I thought this checkpoint ambush was still very effective. And then even before that, the kidnapping of Isabella, I really liked. And I mean, to your point about feeling like Isabella at the end, I think that's kind of like the crux of what critics are not liking with the film, is that because it's so dark, because we're not grounded with an Emily Blunt character, and because Isabella isn't, I guess, really doing enough of that for the film, when Brolin doesn't save Benicio, and when Brolin and his team are kind of like, well, I guess we didn't have to kill him. Sucks to suck. There he goes. He's been disavowed. It's like, you can't really feel anything, because it's tough to feel anything for these characters because they're such immortal people, and you're just kind of watching this dark and gritty tale happen. And, the way I've been talking about, a lot of people are comparing it to, naturally, as makes a lot of sense, comparing it to what's happening today with Trump's Mexico's statements and whatnot. And I mean, the movie starts off with Border Patrol catching people, and then of course there's a human trafficker kid as like a B plot, and I guess you can't help to think about how it relates to today, but I'm kind of like, you're not co-signing any policy by watching the film, It's like, and like I know the movie like skews very masculine in terms of the audience, and it's very like a machismo movie, and that's kind of Sheridan's vibe when he writes. But the way I kept going away is, all right, well, retweets don't equal endorsements. You can watch this movie even if you don't feel much from it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I do worry about how this movie might be used politically to side one way or the other. But I guess that's probably for the Pod Save America people to talk about if they want to. We don't need to dive too deep into it. It's interesting as you were talking. I was thinking about the juxtaposition of how they basically treat these people who are going across this border as like less than humans, and they talk about, human trafficking is the biggest epidemic or whatever going on at the border because it's something you don't need to cultivate. It's a resource that's constantly there.
Right.
And just even the way that they were talking about it in that scene showed how dehumanized or how they treat Isabella, and then they talk about the people in that scene. It's very dehumanizing, when they confront Brolin. I'm forgetting the actress's name. Sorry, I have it written down here. Catherine Keener, which shout out her, 2 excellent movies in a month with Incredibles as well. Yeah. But the way that she talks to him about the mission and what they need to do and how they need to just wipe the slate clean, it's like they look at it the same exact way, and who's actually worse in this. It's an interesting thing. It's thoughtful, and I think you can take away what you want to from this movie. You can either see it for like the gratuitous violence and just the shocking moments, or you can see it for, I think, the commentary on the state of these affairs that it's probably meant to be, and kind of take from it, what do we want to do? How do we want to move forward with our perspectives? But were there any scenes other than the scene, the shootout scene that really stood out to you, or any moments, maybe any performances?
I saw some critics calling it like contrived, but a contrived way to have some exposition about Alejandro. But I really liked it, the sign language scene. Really everything with Alejandro once he and Isabella were together and on their own, I thought was great. But the sign language scene I really liked. And just, I don't know, it's just Benicio, even if he's kind of transcending what's on the script for him, what the character really is. But I mean, whenever he was on screen and actually having any dialogue, I thought it was really great. One scene that I thought, you speak about the political angle, when Brolin kind of has the torture scene in the shipping container. It's like, oh, the waterboarding. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something way worse. And I'm like, we already kind of had a blowback to a torture scene from Zero Dark 30, a fucking fantastic film, So it's like, do we need this? We kind of already know who Matt is as a person. Right. At the same time, I'm not going to say I don't think the gratuitous violence or going over the top is an issue at all. I think if you want to have a real critique, it's that maybe the movie doesn't have enough to say to justify I think that stuff.
Where does this rank in terms of the last 3 Brolin performances? Obviously we had him in Avengers and in Deadpool.
It's probably my favorite movie of the 3.
Favorite movie of the 3. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think I have his performance in this as the worst of his 3, with probably Thanos being his best, just because of he made a CGI grimace,
better character, Thanos for sure.
Yeah, a character you can somewhat sympathize with. Del Toro. So I wanted to ask two things about him. One, he doesn't. So he really cares about this kid and is really working to save Isabella. At the end of Sicario, he ends up shooting that whole family. I mean, does this make sense for his character to go from killing this entire family at the end of one and then wanting to work so hard to save this child in this other one?
That's a good point. And that's kind of an unnecessary problem for the movie due to it being a loose sequel. I don't know. Maybe he just kind of saw the innocence in her, and that I guess he changed once he finally like had his revenge mission finished in season one, and now he's just kind of like a merc that Matt can call in for help, Right. So I don't know, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, something I was thinking about. The other thing, what'd you think about him surviving that shot, like being shot in the face thing? I was like, first of all, surprised that they even had him get shot, and then second, like the fact he survived, I was kind of like, I think maybe this should have just been it. Like, that
See,
this is the end of
I
this.
liked it because the way they shot him was, I thought, very effective. And then
Hmm.
when they go back, there's just like that, like low camera's like low on the ground in that crater, and just looking at his body. It's a solid like 10 or 15 seconds before he moves. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow, like, really bring that home again. And then he lives, and then he has that he's in the car and he has that crash into like the street sign. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, now he died. And I was like, I thought the way they like had him like struggle to live was really
Hmm.
effective. So I thought it worked for me. Plus, he had that cool moment where he threw a grenade in that car.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I think it worked. I think I'm just like, this guy got shot in the face and supposedly just went through his cheek, which I get. It kind of looked like that when I first saw it. It's like, oh, I don't even think he's dead. But also, I mean, like, it makes this guy out to be like Superman, kind of,
Lost a
and
lot of blood.
yeah, a lot of blood. And then he's just sitting there at the end, like, let's have a talk. You want to be a Sicario?
Hey, looks at camera.
Yeah. Maybe. Um,
Well,
are
actually,
we
that
gonna
was
get?
probably the weakest point for me in general, was the whole plot with Miguel. If anything was
Yeah.
contrived, it was his connection to the rest of the story. But
Mhm.
maybe he presented like the most potential in terms of humanizing it, because he was like a high school kid who was falling in with the cartel. Like, how'd you feel about him?
I felt like they didn't really explain enough why he was falling in with the cartel. Because you
Right.
see like his family and the people that surround him, and other than his cousin, no one else is really involved. And I was kind of like, I don't really get why you're doing this. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's wanting to be a part of something different. I'm not really sure. I mean, and I might have missed something there too. Maybe it was explained and I missed it. But yeah, it didn't really work for me either. I thought it was kind of stupid how he sees him this one time and he recognizes him when he goes on the bus among all these people. I was kind of like, that doesn't seem like totally realistic, but
Mm.
overall, I mean, it's a small nitpick
I
for
also
a big
thought when
plot.
he jumped off the truck that he was gonna give it up, but then you see him, well, tattoos, a year later. I was like, oh, no, he's in.
Yeah, he's in. Are we gonna get Sicario 3?
Yeah, I think so. If they
Do
didn't want to make Sicario 3, they would have kept Alejandro dead. So
agreed. Do you want Sicario 3?
um I'm not opposed to it if Sheridan's involved. I think this is a
Mhm.
pretty good sequel by all accounts. And yeah, maybe they'll see people's notes on it and they'll adapt to that. Or they don't have to make one. I'm I guess value neutral on Sicario 3.
Yeah, I think give it a couple of years, and I'm sure it will probably be another 2 or 3 before we see it. So
Mhm.
we'll see how I feel that.